Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming today. As you all know, we will be going through the new proposal for the Rawlings social media strategy for the next 6 months. So if you could go ahead and have a seat, go ahead and take a look at the pamphlets that I've placed in front of you. If you go through those along with the presentation, you will see a few more visuals and charts that may help you understand some of the reasons for the decisions made in this proposal. All that data backs up what we're looking at here today, and you can feel free to dive into it as we go along, or as well as after the presentation, some for you to hold on to. And without further ado, we will go ahead and get started. So the overall objective for this campaign that we're proposing is to raise awareness of the Rawlings brand as a baseball bat manufacturer by 50% specifically over the next 6 months, as measured by reach and engagement on the identified social channels that I'm going to outline a little bit later in this presentation. As you all know, Rawlings has been known as sort of the authority baseball brand for a very long time, largely riding on the coattails of our super high performing award-winning gloves, for which we are known worldwide. Rawlings is also synonymous with, of course, the Rawlings Gold Glove Award in Major League Baseball, identified as a sort of indicator of the ball players who are the best defensively at their position. Year in year, there are more and more Rawlings users who win that award. Before we really get into our strategy going forward, it's going to be important for us to kind of refresh our memory with our target audience. And we're going to do that by breaking our target demographic into two smaller groups. We're going to have one that's more geared toward the casual youth baseball player and one that's a little more geared toward high school ball players, collegiate ball players, semi-professionals. Their consumption methods on social media are very similar. However, they have slightly different needs, slightly different desires when it comes to the baseball bats that they're going to purchase and how we're going to need to approach them. So our first guy here is Slugging Sammy. He represents that 11 to 15-year-old age group. He is a casual youth baseball player. He really likes baseball. It's one of his favorite activities, but he hasn't quite developed that passion for the sport yet, that desire to practice and hone his craft and take it to the next level. It's not necessarily a part of his personality, just an activity he really likes to do, maybe something to help mom and dad get him out of the house, keep him active. So he's going to need something that's going to meet youth league requirements, of course, something that he's going to be able to play with his buddies on a team with. That's, as far as mom and dad are going, that's really all they need to know. Sam is going to want something that looks cool. At that age, that's something that is really important for these players. They want something that's going to help them stand out, match their personality, maybe resembling their favorite players. Some of the guys out there that are making waves like Ronald Acuna Jr., Fernando Tatis, they're going to want something that maybe resembles them, their style, their swag, maybe even from the same brand that some of those guys use. Only concerns, again, on that price, mom and dad are going to have final say. Sammy's not actually out in the workforce right now. He doesn't have a lot of spare change aside from an allowance. So unless he's saving up considerably on his own, mom and dad are going to have the final say here. Sammy's going to point and kick and scream in the store or at any catalog we send out. But at the end of the day, mom and dad need to sign off on it. So as long as we can get to the forefront of Sammy, we think we have a very good chance of doing that. If we're his first choice, that's all mom and dad are going to ask questions for. Again, Sammy does want to look cool. The only thing worse than not looking cool is looking uncool for Sammy. He's not going to want an older, worn out, old school aluminum baseball bat. He's not going to want to get picked on by the rest of his teammates for that. And another thing to consider is that Sammy may be sharing this bat. A lot of kids in youth sports, it's not uncommon for them to share a bat with their teammates. It's not uncommon to have one or two team bats in general as well. However, some kids like Sammy may not want to share. They may want their own. They may want something that has a little bit of flash, a little bit of style. Either way, we're going to be mostly looking to fit those needs, either something that the whole team can use as sort of a baseline, or something that's just going to kind of get the job done for Sammy, that's going to meet his personal aesthetic preferences. As far as Sammy's social media habits, his activity is going to peak on the evenings and weekends. Not a whole lot of phone use while Sammy is in school. Outside of that is when he's going to get most of his social media consumption in. Currently, baseball is kind of competing for Sammy's attention. There's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of content out there online. He's huge on TikTok. It's been blowing up. We all know that. It's the fastest growing social media platform out there. Super popular with Sammy's age group. He's also spending a lot of time on YouTube, a little bit of time on Instagram as well. A lot of his consumption is going to be focused on influencers, people that are content creators that are getting Sammy's attention. Of course, Sammy does like to follow his favorite athletes, other popular personalities around his interests. But he does primarily use social media to interact with his friends and to be entertained. In order to kind of cut through all that noise for Sammy, we need to make sure we're providing entertaining, trendy content, while kind of using baseball as a little bit of a backdrop, making sure we're showcasing Rawlings as kind of the cool, trendy new thing. We want to show that we can meet him on his level, that we understand him, kind of foster that emotional connection. And next, we have Training Thomas. Thomas has adopted baseball as part of his soul. It is a deep, deep rooted passion for him. It's a major part of his personality. And it's something that he sees himself potentially doing as a career going forward. So any equipment purchases by Thomas, he sees as an investment in his personal development as a player. As long as he can afford it, he has no problem spending a little bit of money on something, as long as he's going to get some longevity out of it, and if he thinks it's going to make him a better baseball player. Thomas may also need multiple baseball bats, so fostering that brand loyalty is going to be very, very important. A lot of Thomases, they play baseball year round. They're going to need a bat for high school and collegiate requirements. They may need a wood bat for an amateur league, a summer league, even just for training. So Thomas is going to want to make sure he's getting the right equipment to help him develop into a ball player, a great ball player. His concerns, of course, going to be that price, because he's going to be paying for it on his own. He's not going to have mom or dad to help him out, most likely. This can be coming out of Thomas's pocket. But again, this guy lives and breathes baseball. He's not going to have any problem dropping the money on the right bat. He does want something that's going to be unique to him, though. He doesn't want anything that's generic, unspecialized, like Sammy might be interested in. Thomas wants something that's going to fit his needs. You know, each ball player has something different that they like to swing based on the balance in the bat. Sometimes they want like 1-piece aluminum, 2-piece, 3-piece, composite aluminum combinations. We've got all those different options for Thomas to try out. We've got, more likely than not, he already knows his preference. So we fit that mold for him. We're going to be able to meet his specific needs to help him develop into the best ball player that he can. As far as Thomas's social media habits, they are pretty different from Sammy's. His activity is going to peak mostly during the daytime, because Thomas does have a social life. But after the daytime, he's most likely practicing, or when the sun goes down, he's most likely spending time with friends, potentially going out, spending time with family. He's not going to be on his phone as much during those periods of the day. One thing that is interesting about Thomas, though, is while he does still use social media to sort of keep up with his friends and interact with them a little bit, his social media profile really kind of is starting to mold to his interests. And right now, that is baseball. Baseball is the end-all be-all for him. So he's following all of his current and former teammates, coaches he idolizes, maybe some of his favorite teams, his brands. He also uses social media a lot kind of to track down information or to accomplish some sort of task. So he's going to be doing his research largely through social media as sort of an extension of search and discovery to help him figure out what equipment is going to be right for him. And as we can see here, he is very big on Instagram consumption, big on YouTube as well. And of course, he's got some TikTok there. He does have that in common with Sammy. Just the percentages at which he consumes these, the screen time he's devoting, is a little bit different. But other than that, what you see is what you get with Thomas. This is the current state of our social media presence at the moment. This is our audience you're seeing right here. We do have the largest audience out of all of our competitors on social media, and we will get to that in the next section. But for right now, it's important that you know that the majority of Rawlings content is highly focused on the baseball glove. Everyone knows Rawlings is synonymous with the Gold Glove Award in Major League Baseball, and from being made of the highest quality leathers and just to the exact specifications of professional athletes. However, we do not do a very good job, if any job at all, of marketing our baseball bats on social media. This is a very powerful tool we have at our disposal, and we're not really putting a whole lot of effort into it. Across all of our platforms, actually, we're reusing a lot of the same content, and it's not really working very effectively. It's not creating a bunch of engagement or emotional connection with our audience In fact, engagement rates are pretty low across the board, with the only exception being TikTok. Our TikTok engagement rates, and again, you guys have this in front of you in the pamphlet, you can go through those numbers more specifically, but TikTok's been an area of success for us, and it perhaps shows us some clues as to how we can grow our presence and our effectiveness on these other platforms. TikTok, our content on TikTok is some of the most unique that we have across all platforms, and a lot of it is based on engaging with our users. We have a little bit of user generated content that we're showcasing on there. It creates for a lot more interaction. It makes people want to stitch and duet. And this unique information kind of is a little bit trendier as well, this unique content, sorry. And that's really what's working right now. So perhaps we can take some of that formula and incorporate it into our other social media platforms, and just kind of really learn to use, we can design our content to the needs of our users and to the needs of each platforms, rather than just finding something that might fit or might work across all platforms. We want to make sure we're meeting the needs of our users. As far as our competition goes, like we said earlier, we are crushing it in terms of just our overall reach and our audience across all channels. For some of our competitors here, they've got a little bit of a head start on us as far as Facebook, maybe even Instagram. Easton's got a little bit of a YouTube jump there. But as far as these guys, despite us having a larger social media presence, they are all beating us in the baseball bat category. You can check that in your pamphlets as well. And again, it's just because we're not using our tools effectively. There's no reason we can't be outselling these guys. And this proposal is going to be how we do that. As far as our channel strategy goes, we're going to be targeting those big three that both Sammy and Thomas love to spend their time on. That's going to be TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Of course, we're going to make sure we maintain a presence on Twitter. It's a great place for engaging with devoted fans and followers, but it's not going to be where we allocate most of our resources. Same thing with Facebook. Facebook is still a monster. You can't ignore it. It's not going away anytime soon. So we want to make sure we have a presence on there, something that's uniquely tailored to that platform, but it will not be the overall focus of this strategy, at least from a priority standpoint. Content strategy. We want to make sure we're creating content that specifically meets the needs of our target audience. Over here on the left, you have a mocked up screenshot sort of outlining what a TikTok clip might look like for Sammy. This guy's an influencer. He's keeping these guys updated on all the hot trends, and he's talking about our bats right now. He's talking about this thing is the hottest new thing. You got to get it before the next season starts. Sammy's going to pick up on that right away. On the right-hand side here, we have a proposed YouTube thumbnail for something that might be more appealing to Thomas. Thomas is going to be looking online for information on how to perfect his swing, how to get extra power out of it, and he's going to look for drills to help him prepare and develop his game. That's what we're here for right here. We have a lot of relationships with pro athletes and professional coaches that are Rawlings guys. They can use they'll be using our bats, our gear. That's exactly what Thomas is looking for. And if he sees all these guys using our gear, he's going to be more inclined to use a Rawlings bat next time he steps up to the plate. Across the board with this content, we're going to be looking to use our bats as sort of a plot device, if you will, for the content. The content is going to be more driven by trends and the message and the purpose that it's trying to serve on each individual platform. We're going to, as a brand, sort of take a little bit of a backseat to that. We're going to be there. The color, the imagery, it's all going to be there. But we want to make sure this content is aimed at fitting the needs that our audience wants for in order to create that emotional connection and engagement to spark loyalty and ultimately purchases. Tactics. Guys, I've got a screenshot from our website here of all the different bats we've got, because I want this to soak in. We need to emphasize the bat. All of our social media content is focused towards the glove and our relationships with the pros. That's not necessarily appealing to the guys that we're trying to get bats in the hands of. And we're not really advertising the bat at all. So that's what we're going to do from here on out. We're going to put in front and center. As far as social media goes, we want to give it as much love as the glove, if not more right now. And then from a paid search and paid social standpoint, we want to make sure we're putting Rawlings baseball bats in all the same places that our competitors are putting theirs. There's no reason that Easton and DeMarini and Louisville Slugger should continue to have a stranglehold on the top three slots of baseball bats, especially with all the partnerships that we have with colleges, junior colleges, and with how affordable our bats are, how high quality they are. There's no reason that we can't be jumping a few spots in those ranks. And all it's going to take is just leveraging it a little bit more. We can potentially create content with our collegiate NIL athletes, coaches, pros, influencers, and just going off of recent trends. We need to make sure we're hiring people and social media managers who can stay up to date on trends and who are creative and can make Rawlings a part of that conversation. Our overall evaluation, again, this ties back to our objective of increasing awareness and engagement 50% in the next 6 months, specifically as it relates to Rawlings as a bat manufacturer. Awareness, we're going to track with impressions, views, watch time, and bounce rate. Specifically with watch time and bounce rate, that's for our clips, our YouTube videos. We want to make sure we know what's drawing people in, what's kicking them out, how long they're staying around, and ultimately, what length of videos is going to keep them around and watching until the end so that they can consume the entire bit of content. For engagements, we're looking at likes, comments, shares, and channel-specific organic content. That's going to be user-generated content like stitches and duets on TikTok, or retweets on Twitter with a quotation, things like that. These are going to be things that help us further the conversation, showing that we are creating that emotional connection with our users. Now we're also going to look at conversions, but only ones that are driven by engagement. So that's going to be new followers we're getting on across social media platforms, subscriptions on YouTube, our overall click-through rate that's driving people to the Rawlings website as well. We want to know what kind of content is doing that effectively. And then once these users are on the Rawlings website, we want to see who's creating a Rawlings account, who's signing up for our email list to get that 20% off promotion that we have up on the site right now, and who is actually purchasing equipment and specifically baseball bats coming off of the content that we're creating. That's going to give us a better idea of what's working on each channel and just overall how we're going to be able to meet that objective going forward. If you guys look in your pamphlet, you'll also see how we're going to track this in a little bit more detail. There's some spreadsheets in there, kind of give you an idea of what totals we're going to be looking at running, how we're going to identify what's working as well. As far as our budget, this is what's interesting. It's not really going to change. We already dominate audience-wise on social media. I don't think we have any need to increase the budget. I think we can get these numbers without making any changes, actually. The only thing we're going to do is really revisit how we're going to allocate it. And what I'm proposing we do is we split the budget exactly in half. We take 50% of that and we use it to target slugging Sammy. We take the other 50%, we use it to target training Thomas. And then the way that we allocate that to create original content is going to be based on the social media consumptions that we've outlined in those pamphlets as well. We're going to allocate it kind of based on which specific platforms we're targeting. There's going to be a lot of content we create that kind of might appeal to both Thomas and Sammy, and that's perfectly fine. The more the merrier. But we want to make sure that it is hyper-focused and that it is meeting those needs of each of these guys individually. In closing, we want to make sure we're emphasizing the bat. We want to create content with a purpose. It's meeting a need for our target audience. And overall, we want to generate that emotional connection with them. We want to keep them coming back for more. They're very loyal. We want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to create a foundation for the future and meet that overall goal that we talked about earlier. If you have any more questions, you can find more information in your pamphlets. Otherwise, feel free to reach out with any questions. Thank you.